on this topic?
Solo, you can give your argument for why it exists.
Okay, so my position is that logicality exists in fiction. So we do. So basically, we can conceive contradictions. So because we can conceive contradictions, it will tell that we imagine contradictions,
Okay, prove
and
that.
then contradictions. Okay, you want me to prove that?
Yeah, prove that.
Okay, so basically, we can distinguish logical from illogical. Okay, so for example, I could say that A is A and A is B, but it is not A. That is a contradiction. Okay,
Are you saying
so
like when you
I
say
can see.
distinguish,
So
do you
I
mean
conceive that. Okay, do you agree with that?
are you when you say distinguish, are you saying like you can basically give the differences and why they aren't the same and basically link
When I
it?
say distinguish, we can rule out that it's not logical. Okay,
Okay, so basically like telling the differences, correct?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, I agree. That's fine.
Okay, and we can imagine the disposition
Okay,
between it,
that
right?
doesn't mean
Okay, but okay, I'm not. I'm just a yes or no question.
finish.
So we can distinguish. Okay, between it. Okay, so we can imagine this disposition between it. Okay, so because we can do that, we can conceive a contradiction, not visually, but we can just conceive the general notion of it. Do you agree with that?
I think we can conceive the general notion of it. I don't think we can apply an
Okay, so
actual.
you just
I
conceded.
just wanna,
You literally just conceded.
no, I didn't. I'm gonna finish.
You just said
Can
we
I
can conceive
finish?
the general notion of it.
Again, can I finish?
Okay, go ahead and finish.
Damn. Anyways, I think we can conceive of the general notion that it does not follow logic. Yes, that's pretty obvious. That's what the denotation and definition of illogicality is. Defying or going against the logic. We're gonna be appealing to classical logic in this sense. But that does not mean we can actually apply it to fiction and make it in actuality have it in fiction. We can describe it within fiction. That does not mean it is in actuality existing within fiction. For example, I could say, well, X thing is the case. That doesn't mean X thing is the case. Just because I have the general notion of X thing, that does not mean I can apply it to other things without being able to actually conceive of something within that category. I can only have a general notion of what it would be like. Yeah.
Okay, so do you know what narrative progression is?
Define it for me.
Basically, a narrative progressing a series of events. Okay, so basically, for example, let's say like for example, okay, Goku moves in Afterlife, right? Afterlife said it had no concept of time. Okay, but the narrative implies that, right? So
And
let's say let's say for like
wait, implies what?
like that would be what
Implies
what you
what?
say?
You said it implies that.
I saying uh, okay, I was gonna finish real quick. Just let me finish.
Sure.
So for example, you would think, oh, that's a contradiction because moving requires space. Okay, but the narrative progresses that as it's not a contradiction. Okay,
Okay, so are you basically saying it's just that he moves for narrative progression?
I'm not saying
Just
it moves for narrative progression. That's not what I said. I said the narrative progresses it as it is not a contradiction.
so you're saying it's not a contradiction because it's for narrative purposes. Am I correct?
Basically,
Okay, so can you prove that the author has knowledge upon that this would be a contradiction, or you can't argue that
okay. So do you agree that movement would
the
require space?
narrative comes from
Do
the
you
author?
agree that? Do you agree that narrative that would do you agree, never mind. Do you agree that movement would require space, right?
Yeah, and time.
Yeah, in time. Okay, so basically, if I moved without that, that would be a contradiction, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so if I do move without it, okay, but it's still implied that there's still no space, okay, that's
could you
no
repeat?
that would be a contradiction, okay, and
Could you
then
repeat that? I didn't hear you.
okay, I'm gonna read the whole thing again. Okay, so if I move without space, okay, that is a contradiction, okay, because moving requires space.
Yeah,
So if I do that anyways, but the narrative still implies that is not a contradiction, even though blatantly is, as the narrative progresses as it is not, then therefore in fiction, fiction, contradictions can exist in fiction, but the
Okay, so
narrative progresses it as it's not. Do you agree with that?
okay, so the narrative can basically say or imply that this isn't a contradiction. That wouldn't make it in actuality not a contradiction. This would
Yeah, in
be
actuality, not
let me
fiction. I'm talking
if
about
it's in
fiction.
actuality, it can't happen in fiction.
It's fiction is based
In
off of
order
false
for it
events.
to
You can't
exist in
generalize it.
fiction, it
That's
would
what I'm
have to
saying.
exist in
You
actual
can't
for
generalize
it to
it.
be able to happen in a possible world. What I mean by actuality is it being actually the case. It can be things can be actually the case within fiction. For example, Naruto can be Naruto. He would equal himself in fiction. That is the case. That would be something in actuality. That's what I'm in reference to. In
Right, what I'm
actuality,
saying, but I don't know
in
what I'm saying.
fiction,
Like,
that thing would not be illogical. It can't happen just because the narrative
but
is.
it does
It
happen
doesn't mean
though.
it.
It
It
literally does happen
all right,
though.
show it.
Huh? That Goku
Show it.
moving in space? The Goku
Yeah.
moving out time space? Okay.
Okay, that would you would just end up going to a contra- contradiction, which
Okay, see.
again would just be the
And that is
author's
not just going
intention.
circularly because I already said, okay, because
That's
I already
if
said,
you want to conclude.
yeah, let's conclude.
All right, yeah. Vadios, what's your Gee, what's your judgment?
Yeah.
Vladios, you give your judgment for now.
What? I thought I
Give
was
your judge,
spectating. My bad. I thought he was the judge.
huh?
I thought he was the judge.
No, you
Y'all
both are.
both are
Yeah, no,
judges.
I'm here. I'm here. I got you.
Y'all
I got
both
you.
are
All right.
judges.
So are you guys concluding on the whole thing, or are you just concluding on a point? If so, please specify the point.
I mean, you can say it's the whole thing, huh?
It
I
was a,
mean,
it was the
you'd
whole
both need
thing.
to be in agreement for
Yeah, all
that.
right, yeah, that
I
yeah,
was the whole thing.
yeah, that's fine. It can be the whole thing. I don't really care.
You want the whole thing, and the whole thing is what specifically?
Okay, based
The
specifically on this
entire what?
like if a narrative implies a contradiction, would that be like
Hold on.
actual
Let me hear
contradiction?
it from Solo real quick. Solo, what's
Yeah.
the
What?
debate? Like, what's the
The
one
debate. The
sentence? What's
debate.
the debate?
The debate is basically that in fiction, illogicality can progress in narrative without it being implied a contradiction. That's what I'm saying.
And progress in narrative with an
Well,
illogicality can progress in narrative without it being a contradiction.
Yes. Yes.
And you prove this just now?
this was
I
just
did prove that.
All right, and
with the,
Kiana,
what's
do
up?
you agree with that being the topic or no?
Um, it wouldn't be the whole topic. The whole
What
debate.
whole
Well,
So
talk?
because like this is why I wanted
it
y'all
was
to
a point.
specify, because if it's a point, then we can
It
get more
it
specific. But
wasn't
if
a
it's like
Yeah,
the whole
it was a
thing, then
point.
you guys
Then
need to
it
have
was
yeah.
the
like a
whole thing.
concise answer.
We're
No. It wasn't the
no.
whole thing. It
I
was
know it's the whole thing. It's just I want it
of
to be concise for what you guys are like actually.
You
Do I
just
hear
said it
baby
was the
toxic?
whole thing,
I
and
think
I agreed with you that it was the whole
let it
thing.
come
So
in.
what are you? So why are you backtracking now?
I
Is that baby toxic, Hajun?
was good.
Bro,
Anyways,
bro,
one
Hajun, why do you
backtracking
sound
wouldn't
like
matter.
that, bro? Why do you sound like that, Hajun?
I'm sorry.
All right, so
Alright, buddy, you're
Hajun,
blocked. You're
in
blocked. You got
fiction,
gone.
and illogicality can progress
Wait.
in
Who's that?
narrative without it being a contradiction.
I'm sorry.
Yes, that's what I
Is
said.
that do you disagree with that being the thing at hand here or no?
I think
I
it's more.
agree with it.
You
I
think
think
what?
it's more of the point than rather than the whole debate itself.
What
Okay,
point?
that wasn't the
The whole
point.
debate itself is more just can illogicality and exist in fiction. The narrative progression stuff was just an argument upon why it can exist.
That's
That was part of my premise.
Exactly. It's not the whole debate. It's
That
just
was,
an
that's my
argument
premise.
within the
We
debate.
weren't concluding on that. We were concluding on the whole debate.
Yeah, but he asked for
Is he asking for the premises, or what is he asking for?
I was just trying to like figure out what like the main topic was.
the main topic is
Okay,
if
the
Can
main topic
illogicality exist in fiction?
is illogicality can exist in fiction. That's what it
yeah.
was.
Let me look at my notes real quick. Mm, give me
Hey,
30
hey,
seconds.
Yuji.
What, bruh?
Hey.
Bro, this Hajun dude's so gay.
Anyways, Valios, what's your judgment?
20 seconds.
20 seconds.
Hajun making some, or not Hajun, Vladio's making something in the microwave right now, bro.
Yugi, let's debate after this. I'll slam you.
We can debate abortion.
No. Anyways, so Yugi, what topic do you want to get slammed on next?
Abortion. We can run it.
No. What other topic? Because, like, my phone's kind of, like, laggy, so I can't do abortion.
That's
What the fuck?
what?
I just.
W
Alright,
reasoning.
So if the topic itself is can illogicality exist in fiction, just to make sure, do you guys agree upon the definition of exists, have objective reality or being?
What? What does this have to do with the debate?
If the debate topic is can illogicality exist in fiction, I think the definition of the word exist has everything to do with the debate.
I don't think it was brought up, but sure.
What are you talking about?
Fair enough. We'll just skip to it then. Solo would have won the debate on this one.
Why's that?
I got you. So basically, the argument was, can an illogicality exist in fiction? He did bring up like an example narratively of moving without like space and time, and it's it's contradictory to move without space and time. Just this being present in fiction, it doesn't mean it's actually happening, right? Like, even though he tried to refute that and he actually tried to take a step towards that, honestly, that's null. It doesn't even matter if he proves that or not. The thing that he was going to prove initially was that that thing was even present to begin with, that thing is happening in fiction and it's a contradictory state. And he showed, or at least like just said, that these things happen, right? Now, you even said that you can conceive of the general notion of a contradiction, or at least an illogicality within fiction. You can conceive of the general notion. If you can conceive of something conceptually, this thing would be able to exist in the fiction, no matter how vague. You do have the proposal of this thing existing. The actualization, which you tried to argue, of course, you can't have that. He wouldn't be able to prove it, and you showed that as well. But that's not the actual argument. It's not if it can be actualized. It's if it can actually, like, if it exists, if it can be in the fiction. It's not actualization. It's if it can be in the fiction.
Yeah, how can you have
no
it
matter
in
how
the
vague.
fiction? How can you have it exist within the fiction if in actuality it can exist within the fiction?
So this is the problem that he didn't have to prove, because he only needed to show that there was a contradiction in the author's imagination. That was it. The moment that he showed there was a contradiction within the author's imagination in the narrative, he won the debate, because it shows that there's an illogicality there within the imagination. That's it. Now, it's actualization being present. Like, if he were to say that the author's imagination doesn't have a flaw and that illogicality is actually happening and it functions, then that'd be a whole other discussion. But he didn't have to do that. He might have tried it, but he didn't have to. That's all the steps he had to take. So for future debates, you got to be really specific and say, can they actually exist, or like get more down to the nitty gritty.
That since he was able to prove that a person can imagine of a general contradiction, that would mean he already won.
I mean, yeah. If you have the general notion of a contradiction, like he could have went as simple as just saying, like, he could have literally made a sentence and said, "I am blue, I am not blue. Therefore, contradiction linguistically exists."
I don't think that's what the topic was in reference. Unless we had different views of the topic, the view of the topic from my
What was your view on the topic?
Was that if it can exist within fiction as in actuality, not just linguistically described.
See, I completely understand that, and that's why I had such a hard time approaching the, like, what's the actual topic, guys, because I wanted to get that from you, because I knew exactly what you were pushing for, and it wasn't the actual argument that was like given to me. You know what I mean? So the argument that you guys both agreed upon and that was said, Solo won. If you specified more, and if you approached it with a more like clear and concise topic, you would have slammed. It wouldn't have even been a competition, like actually, because he was trying to walk into territory of proving actualization, which he couldn't have done. But
So you
he didn't even have
basically-
to. He already won just based off the beginning.
Since this topic wasn't necessarily specified, he lost. Because
Say
like
that
there
one more
was,
time.
like, you're basically saying since there was no like ground for what he had to prove, he just had to prove like that author.
There was grounds he had to prove, although they were very simple. There was grounds,
Yeah,
and he
that's
did
what I
so.
mean. But like he didn't have to prove it in actuality. He just had to prove it
Exactly.
in
Well,
general,
because
like,
that was the
he-
topic.
he
It wasn't
because there's different
actualization. It was
ways
just the
it
basic
can-
notion of it.
So
Yeah.
basically, he just had to prove it can exist linguistically.
Yeah, that's
because,
all
like,
he would have
those
had
can
to have
be
done. Even though he didn't do that, that's all he would have had to have done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So-
just to be clear, just like add a bit more
Yeah,
clarity.
that's fine, that's
Hodgin.
fine.
The reason for that is because like denotatively, what fiction means is just like literature like that describes like imaginary events and people.
Yugi, I
and if he proves
understand.
no, hold on, buddy, hold on, Hodgin.
Hold on.
What the
Alright,
fuck?
This
Recording
guy's
begins safe.
this guy's weird. But yeah,
Stop.
basically it's just like because it describes